Good morning, everybody. You can watch my little snow blossom, my little snow fruit over there, messing around with her pillows. You're so cute, Sugar. You're a good girl. She has that look of like deer in headlights. Did I do something wrong? My dog is funny as hell. No, but good morning on this not really very cold. It's definitely a little bit layer of a snow. But yeah, so yesterday I yesterday I was clued in on one of my people's people in another continent, okay, in South America somewhere. She reversed anal cancer with the J juice. Now, how does that happen? How can you reverse cancer with J juice? Not cure, because cures are like chemotherapy, cannabis. It just kind of gives you a temporary stay of execution, and it also further weakens your body, so it leaves you open for more cancers or disease, because cancer comes from weaknesses in the body, unresolved, that viruses exploit and then recycle you back to earth. So how do you reverse cancer with J juice? Well, I mean, I try to explain it to some people through email when they're wondering how it is that cabbage, water, and salt fermented can potentially exhibit some of the claims that I'm making, potentially. Okay. And it's because it heals your gut. I mean, you have vitamin U in the cabbage. Vitamin U is it's a hormone that heals ulcers in your gut. So essentially it heals your gut from ulcers and everything else. The probiotics repopulate your bacteria in your gut. Of course, the vitamins, the minerals, and the nutrition in both the cabbage and kale are then broken down by the salt and the temperature and the water to a pre-digested state. And when you're doing enemas with the J juice, especially if you've been diagnosed with anal cancer, if you're doing enemas, you're doing waterfalls, and you're drinking it, okay, because it's not only getting it on that end of the alimentary canal, which is the canal from your anus to your mouth, okay, and why people suffer miscommunication and cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because there's a broken communication between their ass and their mouth, okay? I mean, that's the best way I can put it. I mean, just for an example, tonight or this morning, I was really congested, a lot of mucus, and then I took a huge poop, okay? No more congestion, no more mucus, okay? So there is a direct relationship and a communication between, this side of the body and the other end of the body. And so it needs to be then refused together, because those connection lines that are broken do then trigger cancer, disease, and chronic illness. And so how do you reverse anal cancer? Well, because you're taking in all of the water, the minerals, the electrolytes, so you're energizing the cabbage and the kale that's pre-digested. You're bringing in the probiotics, the lactic acid, and then you are not adverse to pain, because you know pain is healing, because you understand the concept behind the J juice and also the concepts behind modern medicine. So you understand both and what they represent, and then you choose how to balance out the two with more of the J juice, less of the modern medicine. Okay? And so she was aggressive, just like I was aggressive in the beginning, and then towards the middle when people were giving me their feedback as far as the waterfalls. Hence why I kept jumping to next level of healing. Well, she reversed her cancer, her anal cancer, in like 10 months. It's possible. I mean, she wasn't in stage, well, I don't know what stage she was in, but she wasn't in hospice. So the pain wasn't so excruciating to where it would have taken her out. No, she was well enough to go through the J juice protocol, but sick enough for her to be diagnosed to scare the living crap out of her, literally. And so that's how people are able to heal when they've been diagnosed, is because they're not so weak where they can't handle the healing process, or they can't handle the protocols or therapies, but they're still not strong enough, and they're still weak enough to be diagnosed to where they need to implement something pretty soon. Okay, because that's the whole point of modern medicine, is to intercept Mother Nature and give you a stay of execution. However, right now we are seeing people who are, I would say, their predispositions are so extreme that not even modern medicine can help them out or give them enough stay of execution to make it worth anything. I mean, when you were given like between 6 months to a year, maybe if you have relatively good genetics, to beat pancreatic cancer, if you beat pancreatic cancer to the point where you're over a year, 2 years, 10 years, then you are you're one of the few, not a lot. I mean, because predominantly someone that has pancreatic cancer, they are given at least 6 months. And then you see them systematically degrade when they're going through all these aggressive treatments and immunotherapies and all of that. Okay, so then the lady that was letting me know, she sent me an email. She goes, dear, the girl from the anus cancer is healed. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh my God, wow. You know, I mean, I'm reacting. And then I go, thank you for telling me, wow. And then I post that testimony on my wall and everywhere else. And she goes, now she keeps drinking. So she healed in like 10 months. She was taking 3 LTs per day. So I don't think she's drinking liters. She's basically doing is like 15 cups. So that's in that language or in that denomination or whatever it is that she's talking about. She's translated to 15 cups or something per day. And that's like basically a gallon a day. And that's kind of what I was saying to people, you know, if you're diagnosed with cancer and you can handle the pain process, you're not that far gone, you have a good support system, you understand how this works, it's not impossible to do 15 cups a day. Okay, it's not totally impossible, but you got to start out slow. I mean, it's not like you can slam 15 cups in one day the first day. No, it's a buildup. It's a gradual buildup. Okay, and then also doing the enemas. And I'm sure she stayed on the diet. She didn't, you know, eat off the diet, because, you know, when you're facing cancer and that's a potential death sentence, you're not going to try to mess up the protocol, okay, because this is your life. So anyway, so then my friend was saying, well, then also too, there's another friend of mine that died from lupus complications because it was triggered by her having children. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Well, as we have learned, reproduction comes from the mitigation of extinction, which means the body's on a death trajectory and it knows it's on its way out the door and it needs to go and repopulate. And that's where reproduction comes from. And any urge as far as reproduction, procreation, relative or regardless, if the intention is to actually procreate, is a sign that a person's on a death trajectory, though they'll have a very huge window of opportunity to look cute. And that's kind of our society, to where you have 20, 30 years of looking cute and potentially reproducing if given the chance, like literally, or you could just let all those, you know, little semen things, you know, go to waste, and fine, either way. So, so we have, you know, we have people who have so many predispositions, and reproduction comes from predispositions. And so every year predispositions become more aggressive, more exotic, and then you start seeing people who have now high risk pregnancies, where, like, you saw a news report from NBC saying that the US is the highest maternal mortality rate in the first world, in the Western world. Well, how does that happen? I don't know. I mean, I really can't. I mean, people could say, they can try to blame it on finances, they can blame it on the insurance, they can blame it on, yeah, I mean, poverty, jobs, just stress, all of that. And I'm sure everything is a factor, but no matter what, having a child is very hard on the body. Now, this is why the J juice is so important, because we're not going to eradicate it, you know, we're not going to eradicate reproduction, because we have too many people dying and not replacing themselves, which means that America and the West is going to lose a revenue source. I mean, when you think about, there are some states right now in the union, Oklahoma, Vermont, Kansas, that are giving people credits and money to move into their state because they have an aging population that has taken themselves out of the workforce. They don't have enough representation in some of the finance areas and some of the industries. They need to fill spots in some of these areas. So they're actually doing these advertisements, okay, of even all over the world, to say, we'll give you $10,000 to come move over here. We'll help you move. We'll help you put it down on the house. And we have a great nightlife and great community to raise your kids. I mean, completely selling their community because they cannot seem to replace their population. So now they're bringing in outside people to come in and fill in those spaces. So we're not going to stop people from procreating. I mean, look, the porn industry is huge. We have like explicit stuff all over TV and YouTube and Netflix. I mean, they are cracking down on YouTube, but it's still not 100% surefire to keep kids' curious eyes away from these things. So that's never going to happen. But if you choose to trigger the American dream and have that nuclear family and have that picket house, the white picket fence, the white picket fence and a nice house and the 2 cars in the garage and the 2.5 kids or whatever that is, then you don't want to risk triggering, you know, diabetes or lupus or any autoimmunity or even cancer. You see it in kids nowadays. They're, you know, coming into this world prematurely, not fully developed, triggering all these issues, needing blood transfusions, hooked up to machines. And it's just, it's so sad, but at least they're alive. And so why the J juice is so important is because it's going to help the baby and the mother then generate the cells that are going to be asleep if they stay with their current programming. Because when you come in with predispositions, you're coming in with your body, you know, parts of your body asleep, parts of your body not working correctly the way they're supposed to. And that's where you have disabilities. And then you have just the weaknesses that you see, and you see the symptoms, because adaptation and actually evolution is adaptation, because you can't control the environment. Like, people think that, yeah, you can control the environment to such an extent. I mean, you can to a little bit. Yes, there's always going to be fluctuations based upon the biodiversity and the energy, but take out all of biodiversity, you have nothing. You got to have biodiversity to create your environment. And humans create environment. We are part of biodiversity. So there's always going to be fluctuations. And every single time there's a fluctuation in the universe, and then there's some kind of evolutionary event, it's an adaptation process. Some people survive adaptation or evolution, some people don't. Because if everybody survived the evolution adaptation, we would be so overpopulated to where we would eat ourselves out of existence. But that's not happening, because death is that balancing force for those that violate the laws of life. Okay, so reproduction, well, yeah. So anyway, so they're, you know, trying to bring in people to repopulate, or not repopulate, but to fill in the gaps. We're not going to be stopping procreation, but we're going to have to help the mothers and the babies regenerate their cells and wake up parts of their bodies that are sleeping and make them a whole person. And I'm telling you, growing up is difficult. And so this is probably why, when you think about it, when you think of like, have you seen the movie Idiocracy? Jeez, I'm bringing this in. But there seems to be a pattern that those that are of a higher socioeconomic status, that make more money, more college educated, they tend to wait to have kids. They tend to wait till after they have accomplished their things in their career. Like, I see it in my generation, but not even so much my generation. I see it in my high school class. I came from like the Bay Area, highly educated, Ivy League colleges. Everyone's in a very, very specific profession that is highly regarded, I guess, movers and shakers of the industry. And so they wait, or they have a really good support system to have a child. They don't have like 10 kids. They have like, 1 or 2 kids, but some of them are having later, like in their 40s. Like right now, some of them have already accomplished a lot in their career, and now it's time to settle down, get married, and have a child. But then you see in the more of the impoverished areas, let's say like when I was in Mississippi, and in Mississippi, I was working in the casinos over there on the Redneck Riviera, which is Biloxi. I mean, I was working with the cocktail waitresses and the bartenders, and they were like, they had like, there's like 20-year-olds that had like 5-year-olds. And I'm like, wow, doing the math, I'm like, wow, you had a kid at 15. And then it seemed like it's like an ongoing trend with all of my coworkers in Mississippi that they all had kids at a really young age, and they keep spewing out kids and kids and kids and kids. And that seems to be a trend in more of the impoverished areas. Whereas in somewhere like the Bay Area, they're having a hard time fertilizing eggs. They're going into IVF. And there has to be something to do with diet. But you're like, well, how is it that somebody in a more of an economically depressed area is able to spit out 10 kids, and then somebody like from the Bay Area, California, has to go get IVF? Then you start seeing the patterns, what reproduction actually is. When the body is not getting what it needs, really, trauma, lack of access to resources, a lot of things, and then boredom and not too many goals being set in the future. I mean, there's, I lived in so many different areas. I see it all. So it kind of makes sense. Then, the thing that makes somebody feel good in an area where there isn't much of a future in that whole area is having a child. Having a child is a claim to fame in areas that don't have a lot going for them industrial wise, as far as like, like a place like California. Okay. And so reproduction does come from trauma. It comes from cancer, disease, chronic illness. That's where it comes from. Now, yes, you can guide that reproduction carefully, like you can do in the Bay Area, where you go to your doctor, you have a midwife, you're eating all this organic stuff, you're going to all your mommy and me classes type of thing. And that's fine. There's those, but you can't escape from the fact that reproduction is triggered from trauma to the body, which in essence, then the child does inherit that. And that's how you get family genetic history. But now it's becoming to where mothers are not surviving, or they're triggering their predisposition prematurely. Gone are the days where they trigger their issues like when they're 60s and 70s. We have women that are triggering their issues back in their 30s. Okay? And then they go and have babies, and they have high-risk pregnancies, and it triggers all this other stuff, and they have to be watched very closely because they don't want the mom to die because she's a revenue source. They don't want the baby to die because that baby's revenue source. I mean, you need people in a society to then support all the services that you are looking for as far as a well-functioning community. Okay? And so, everybody that has a baby that reproduces in a natural way, they're all on the same playing field. Nobody is much more healthier than the other. If you're able to have a child in our study without too much help from IVF or anything like that, you're working on the same playing field. Your background means nothing because your insides tell you everything. And so every single time a mother has a child, she becomes even more disproportionate. And the baby takes the best out of her. If she's lucky, she's able to kind of bounce back. And some you see have really good genetics are able to bounce back and look cute. Okay? But it doesn't happen for everybody. Not everybody can do a natural childbirth. Not everybody can say, okay, I'm not going to do that shot in the back when epidural. Not everybody can be epidural free. Some people need the epidural. Some people need, so I don't want to encourage anyone to only do home births, because home births aren't exactly the end all be all. There are people that have high risk pregnancies. They have major issues. The baby needs to be made sure that it is can survive that process. And I do see a lot of crunchy mamas out there trying to promote home births and midwifery and all that stuff. But there's a reason why modern medicine exists, because if midwifery and home births were the end all be all for everybody, we wouldn't need modern medicine or hospitals. Or we would be like Liberia, and Liberia has a huge high infant mortality rate. So in a lot of ways, the West is now kind of cycling back to the beginning, to where Liberia is right now. I mean, it's not like they have a huge hospital to bear babies. They have babies in the back of their huts. Some survive, some don't. They have a high infant mortality rate. They don't have a huge infrastructure, okay, to support the diverse population, you know, those that have received the modern medicine, the vaccines, all that stuff. So that's why they're able to get away with not having a high infrastructure, because they don't have a lot of diverse people to support that. I mean, it's pure Darwinism. Okay, but in Western society, we are civilized. What does civilized mean? We have civilization and we have due process. When you go to a place that's like out there in the jungle, it's straight up kill or be killed, Darwinism, no due process, survival of the fittest, purely survival of the fittest. Okay, and so I now I'm cracking down on, you know, I mean, I don't want anybody on my Facebook or anywhere trying to promote midwifery on my Facebook, trying to promote only doing home births, because it's not always prudent for a mother who has high risk pregnancy to have a baby at home, especially if the baby may have issues. And so that's why the officials get and crack down. That's why CPS cracks down on extreme mothering, because of the this whole anti-Rockefeller medicine, anti-vaccine, anti-anything modern. And so then you have this push and this pull, and then people forget that they don't know what kind of predisposition they hold, and they could potentially put their kids in jeopardy. And every person is so important. It's, I mean, it really is, because when you think about it, when you don't have enough people in a society, you don't have enough people to take care of each other. I mean, if you want your computers and you want your modern conveniences and you want your infrastructure and you want your law enforcement and you want your government, because you do, you really don't want to not have that, okay? You got to have people to fill those places in. You got to have those people. If people keep dying at childbirth because somebody is taking their mother to an extreme, they're mothering to an extreme, you're not going to have enough people to fulfill the positions that you're going to want someone to go do a plumbing job. Can you learn all the plumbing and the building and everything? It's not just living off grid, living off of your pots and pans in a trailer in the middle of nowhere. I mean, most people want to have, you know, a controlled environment, controlled climate control. Okay, so this is why it's so important to understand why J-juice is paramount in reproduction, because we're not going to stop people from reproducing. People are still going to have sex. That's going to happen no matter what kind of it is, as long as it's legal and it's not compromising minors. But people are still going to have sex. They're still going to do what they're going to do. And now, if you choose to create a family, you want to create the strongest family ever. Well, that means that you're going to have to fill in the holes of your, you know, of where your predisposition that caused you to reproduce is, you know, caused. Because now you are a little bit less than the minerals that you had in your body that was reserved for you to take care of you is now gone to that child. So how you're going to fulfill your mineral reserves that your kid took from you? And then how is that kid going to strengthen the weaknesses it inherited from you? And that's the whole point of the J-juice. And so, so some of you have a major intense biochemistry that will trigger some of these diseases prematurely. And then that's when you see the triggering of premature cancer disease, chronic illness right after having a baby. I mean, I've seen already a few times where friends of mine or family members of mine were diagnosed, and as soon as they were diagnosed, man, baby dropped just like that. Or a traumatic accident happens. Ooh, a baby drops just like that. I mean, it's like clockwork. The body knows when it's in duress. The body knows. And all it takes is trauma to the body to then cause fertility. Okay? And so when, and then with those fertility comes these specific hormones, the oxytocin, the bonding hormone, that's both for reproducing and for bonding with the baby. So that's why it's so crazy with reproduction and babies, why it's such a wonderful, beautiful thing, and it can be such an ugly thing too. Because then you have the laws around reproduction, and then child support, and then infidelity, and then marriages, or people are going outside the marriage, and then women. I mean, I just watched a thing on, what's it called, True Crime Daily. I don't know why I watch these things, but it's fascinating about people I watch. And this lady, she was seeing a married man, got pregnant, decided to have the child. The married man was a cop, and this is out of Michigan. And she met with him before she died to talk about child support, to talk about putting his name on the birth certificate. And I'm like, oh my God. And then she never came back home. And then he's a cop that finds her somewhere strangled. And I guess she was hanging from her roof rafters, whatever. The racks on the roof from an extension cord. And then this whole investigation finds out that, because, you know, he wrote a suicide note, but it was like so obvious that he was the one. But that's the thing, is that reproduction, though it's so beautiful to the mom, for some moms, not all moms, but for some moms, but not every man or everybody wants to be a parent. Some people want to have the joys of creating a kid, but they don't want the responsibility, and that happens. And we got to allow these people to get out of it, because then what happens is then there's that whole balance. I mean, there's a whole balance. You want to create people to fulfill jobs. No matter what, the kid's got to be fed, whether it's from the father, who this child support, or from the government. No matter what, the child has to be fed. But why criminalize a father and ruin his life, and then cause all of this gossip stuff? Because you know the moms out there that are so under stress from having to take care of this child, and they want to go and slam it to the father. You know, they're creating a whole stressful environment and a hatred in that own situation with that child. And then it becomes then a chain reaction of who knows what kind of events. And that's why then you have law enforcement come in and do investigations and forensics to figure out what exactly happened. But it came from the reproduction. So reproduction can be so beautiful, just like, you know, love, 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 and hate, hate, hate. Reproduction comes from the two extreme hormones. And so how we're going to kind of like potentially mitigate all of these extreme sides of love, 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 and hate, hate, hate is if we stop the death process, and I won't say stop reproduction, but guide it so carefully to where we give all of these kids half a chance in this world, that they're not going to trigger predisposition because you never corrected your issues and helped your kid correct their issues. Some of it's going to be too late for some of you because your kid's too far gone. They're not going to change their ways, and they're not going to see a reason because they're that far gone. But this is for those that are just having kids right now. Give your kids half a chance. Okay, do the J juice. It comes out in your breast milk. You can always do little bits of it, you know, to your kid with water and all that stuff. And give your kids half a chance to be able to compete in this global society. Because I'm telling you, predisposition is going to be the downfall of some societies that are that messed up. And then you start seeing then from disability to different ability to then lack of ability. And when you hit a point where it's lack of ability, now you have a completely defunct workforce that is so heavily dependent on the system, and they're not contributing enough to give back to help the system. They're draining the system. And that's why you have then the two-party system, Republicans and Democrats. Democrats are more about let's help everybody that is so downtrodden and have issues, but they're not giving enough back. And Republicans are like, what the hell? All of my life and my savings and everything is going towards these people that are procreating on bodies that are so weak, and they're taken away from my kids because their kids are so messed up. And so that's why you're seeing this conflict. So let's solve this problem and stop the aging process, and then stop reproduction, or not stop it per se, but guide it so carefully to where we're not just having kids 24/7 willy-nilly that don't have a chance. They're going to be a drain, because right now you're seeing the results of procreation on bodies that have so many predispositions. And that's why you're seeing kind of the unraveling of our society, and every generation is worse than the next. And so you're going to hear me say this all the time, and you're going to see it in your world. You're going to see it because you know your generation, and you know your kids' generation. I mean, when you have these kids are being beaten up on a bus, not because he's wearing a MAGA hat, because we don't know for sure, because we know how the media likes to sensationalize the politics. But for any kid, I mean, I remember getting in fights in camp in Palo Alto, California, before EPA and Palo Alto was like this thing. Right now, Palo Alto is like Stanford and Google and all that stuff. But there's parts of Palo Alto, like East Palo Alto, that's pretty rough. And I was going to camp with some of these girls, and they were really rough. I mean, it was like Chicano heaven, and Norte and Sereno and all that stuff. And I'm just like, holy crap, going to camp with these kids, holy crap. But my dad worked in that area, but then also the kids from the local community were going to the same camps. So I was being exposed to a different side of the different side of the railroad tracks. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. And so we're seeing and so that was back in the 80s, where you're already seeing the whole gang stuff. And okay, I mean, we had that, and then we had Rodney King, and then, and all that stuff, and the riots in LA. And then now we're seeing school shootings, and then people are just beating each other up for politics. And then parents are using their kids as pawns, and parents are not as mature as they used to be. You have parents that are having kids that haven't gone out of a 4th or 5th grade level of just conceptual thought. They're still stuck in baser instinct type of stuff. And so if the parents aren't really contributing to the intelligence of the overall humanity, those kids aren't either. And it becomes a very cyclical thing, and very predictable as far as the outcome of that family as well as that community. And so that's why the thing with the Pewdie Pie, oh my God, the Pewdie Pie stuff. I mean, Pewdie Pie, the YouTubers and all of that, and he was a gamer, and he, became very huge for a lot of years because he knew how to engage his audience. But his audience are like 20-something-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14, like 9-year-olds, okay, that are hanging on his every word, and they're still developing, haven't really been, haven't had their predispositions rectified, and they're listening to these influencers that haven't really fully grown up either. And so they're creating these kids that are violent, that are stalking, that are bullies. And I'm like, holy crap. Okay, and the parents aren't stepping in. The parents aren't at all really doing anything about it, because their parents are too busy trying to make money to feed the family. And so, yeah, you're seeing just the unraveling of our society, because we have too many people who play jackass having kids. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but in a lot of ways it's true. Okay? And so Pewdie Pie is taking a break, which he should. And hopefully he can reevaluate. He's 30 years old and he's tired. 30 years old, tired, because he's been doing the YouTube, and he's making pretty good money. I mean, millions of dollars over like 10 years. He's been around longer than I have. I just started in 2017. Okay, but I'm not a major YouTuber. I don't make money off of hits and clicks and all of that. I'm trying to help society merge the left and the right brain. What does that mean? Because right now, with all of our predispositions, we favor right side brain or the left side brain. And that's where our strengths come from, which is why then people take all these different tests, these placement tests, these evaluation tests, to figure out where their strengths are, to then figure out what job would be best suited for their capabilities. Well, what would happen if you actually can use both sides of your brain, which means you would understand both sides of the people, all the people out there in the population. You don't just understand the left side of the brain people or the right side of the brain people, you understand everything. And that's why I try to exercise and I trigger some people with some of my posts, because I know that they are so much the right brained. they're mostly into allegory, but not understanding science. And when they're understanding only allegory, but not science, they get stuck in stories, but not in the science. So they claim they're all about science, but they're still stuck in the stories. Okay. And so when I merge science and religion and spirituality together, and then show you how to decode the language that's used in those three areas, then you start understanding your community. You start figuring out that this person, even though they're all about Jesus, they're not any different than you, because Jesus to them is life. Okay? But you have to understand what these symbols and what their symbols and people represent. Okay? And so that's how you understand, and then you completely eradicate the differences in our society when you actually take the time to understand and decode the language of somebody that may have what you think is a different belief system, but nobody really has a different belief system. Either you believe in life or you believe people should die. Nobody on this transmission right now, watch me, believes that everyone should die. Because you don't want to die today. You don't want to die tomorrow. You think inevitably you're going to pass away because that's what you've been taught, but you don't want to die today. And if you want to die today, that's called suicide. That warrants a phone call to 988, which is a new 3-digit number that the FCC has approved for people to use if they're feeling suicidal. So, you know, if you want to die today or you want people to die, then you're homicidal or suicidal, and that is an imbalance. And that warrants then law enforcement to come in and intercept. So nobody on this transmission watching me wants to pass away. So you all are on the same page. You all understand the importance of Jesus' life. You understand that evolution, adaptation are synonymous. The devil is death, the death trajectory. Okay. And then, yes, I did post that one meme that has this, you know, Christian guy who's carrying a sign that says, obey Jesus or the devil will teach them witchcraft, psychology, and sexuality and all of that. And I'm like, you know what? They're not wrong. He's not wrong, because Jesus equals life. And if you violate the laws of life, then guess what? You're going to be then participating in crazy indiscriminate reproduction practices, creating babies from trauma. You're going to be messing with people's minds, doing spells and casting spells. And then psychology is manipulation. So witchcraft and psychology are kind of the same thing. It's still a manipulation, even though, yeah, it can be used for good or for evil. But when you're filtering it through bodies that are imbalanced, you know, it's not exactly going to come out in the way that you intend. Okay. So this guy isn't wrong. And then I have these people who hate Joel Osteen, who hate the Bible, who hate Jesus, just laughing at my stuff. And it's people I'd known for a while that I met back in Sacramento when I was there for like 5 or 6 years through my sister's family or people. And they claim to be all about peace and love and empirical data and science. And they can't even begin to understand that these symbols in religion and in the Bible represent science. I mean, you think about it, it represents, you know, life and death, reproduction and death. That's what the Bible represents. That's what science is trying to show you as far as hormones and what to do and what not to do as far as cures and what the FDA and the CDC and the WHO. I mean, spirituality is the same thing. Spirituality is basically your hormones. What hormones are present at the time? Body, mind, and spirit. Body is the Bible, Jesus, Muhammad, Allah, Moses. Mind is the hormones manifesting in something like a written text and what you verbally say. It's your hormones manifested into text, into words. And then the spirit is your hormones, what's present at the time. And if you are aging and degrading, guess what hormones are at the surface? Adrenaline, oxytocin, things that would, you know, and some of you could father a kid at 90 or 80. Now, a woman, you know, some women can have children at 70 or 80. Not a lot. I mean, you know, when menopause kicks in, it's because the body's saying, okay, it doesn't have enough resources to sustain a baby, but doesn't mean that your urge is going to disappear. Sometimes your urge will, because the body is systematically breaking down, and so is your reproductive system. But we have found people on the protocol that are seeing a reversal in that. They're seeing now, them experiencing menopause to then not experiencing menopause, starting to get their period back and feeling the natural urges that they did. And I went through the healing symptoms of hot flashes, okay? But I don't have any menopause. But I went through the healing symptoms, because every single time you feel a symptom, it's the body trying to heal from a trauma or the body degrading. And so I actually preemptively brought up what would be like menopause and hot flashes to a person who would experience it out there in the mainstream, alternative mainstream. But I preemptively took those specific symptoms and disappeared them through the J juice. So I don't get any hot flashes anymore, because I only had it for a very short amount of time during my healing process, because through the J juice, you go through layers and layers of healing. You're not going to heal all at once. You're not going to see your body go all of a sudden you look like Cindy Crawford like a day after. No, you got to go through the stages, because you went through stages of degradation in your lifetime. You got to go through specific stages of healing, though it's not going to take you 60 years to heal, but you're still going to have to feel pain. And that's where the biggest conflict is that people don't understand pain. They think it's something to disappear. And then this is why they then keep triggering prematurely their predisposition faster and faster for each generation, because the way in which they deal with the healing process of their body. Okay. So anyway, so Pewdie Pie is taking a break. He's 30 years old. He's tired. I hope he redirects his energy to make it more worthwhile. And with his audience and his fan base, he could do good for the world instead of destroy the world. I mean, he's already getting backlash for him encouraging encouraging violence against specific minority groups and all of that. And, he slammed me. So, I mean, that's why I have a bit of a personal issue with him, because he's 30 years old, but back then, maybe he was 29 when he did it. But he doesn't know wherever he speaks. And then I get the backlash from his audience members who are just young 24-year-old young punk kids who don't know what the hell is going on. And then I have to go and turn their emails into the FBI, and then they'll get investigated or figured out that they're just blowing hot air. But that's the thing, is we don't want to have people in society encouraging violence, encouraging, bullyism, encouraging all this stuff. And politics is a whole different arena. Okay, just like I think this girl with Greta Thunberg. Even though people say she's a child, she's not really a child. She's a young adult who can handle the public eye. She can handle taking on the big boys. Trump isn't treating her like a child. He's treating her like any other opponent that he has to deal with, that she wants to propose legislation that's going to impact his constituents. Okay? She's playing with the big boys, and she's handling it very well, though her fan base is not handling it very well. Her fan base actually misrepresents her whole position. And they have more of a problem with Trump making jabs here and there than she does. Okay? And oh my God, I mean, if a child is that impressionable to this damaged so easily from somebody jabbing at them on a political platform, they need to get out. But she stayed in there, which means she's a strong lady. She can handle taking her licks. Okay? And so we have kids that are able to handle some of these high pressure situations. And why I was going down that road, I don't know, but I forget. But that's okay. But no, here's the thing. I noticed that people do project what they can handle onto somebody else. And when you recognize your own projection, your own inadequacies, when you recognize that you're seeing the world through the eyes of your own BS, you create the situation. You create all of the craziness in the world. And so we have so many people so messed up that they are creating that which they are fighting against. And it's such a trip, okay? So anyways, why I was going to Greta Thunberg. I knew that I was going down that road for some reason. But anyways, about kids and situations and stressful situations and all of that. But yeah, when you do the J juice, you'll notice your own BS. You'll notice what you project out there. You notice when you project something out there, it is, you know, I mean, it could be a sign of balance or it could be a sign of imbalance. Okay. And we do create our reality. We really do. I mean, it sounds so like a duh cliche, but that is so true. I mean, if we all just shut up, we wouldn't have the reality that we have today. But no one's going to shut up because everyone is projecting. And even your lack of awareness, your lack of addressing really main issues in your relationships speaks volumes, because you're allowing things that you know are not right for you to go on. So even what you don't say speaks volumes, because there are some people around you that are reacting from you and your actions. You know, if we wouldn't have a reality if people didn't move around, if people didn't make the choices they make. Okay. So if you're going to make a choice, if you're going to speak, if you're going to make a choice, if you're going to have a child, if you're going to do anything, make sure it's well balanced. Make sure it's not something that's going to cause more chaos in this world, whether it's love, or hate, or complete indifference, and not even speaking to a situation that you know is not right in your heart, whatever it is. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means if you don't speak on something that you know in your heart is not right, okay, then, you know, you are contributing to the chaos. So just know that every single communication you make out there speaks to what is going on. It's like you're showing your cards. As soon as you speak, you show your cards. So if you don't want people knowing what you're thinking and what you're feeling and how balanced or imbalanced you are, you be quiet. But that's difficult for those that have major issues, because they want to create these realities, they want to project, and they project within. Even when they don't say anything, they still say something, because they don't live in a vacuum. They don't live completely like immune to their surroundings. They don't live in a bubble. And that's kind of what people who are really sick, they think that they live in, they want to live in a bubble. And then they also want to go in and experience and be mobile and be global. But yet they live their life as if they should be in a bubble, and that's not a reality. So if you're going to project anything, project balance. But how do you project balance? You got to get your body, mind, and spirit. You got to stop aging. You got to stop degrading. You got to recognize your imbalances in your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. You got to address the kid that you created in this world, and come to terms with that. Now the control is out. It's out of your control. Now you have to exemplify good health if you want to give your kid half a chance in this world. And if you don't, then you have no one to blame but yourself. But I mean, all I'm trying to do is give you all half a chance, at least exposure to this information. No, I'm not going to go back and forth in private messenger and defend my stuff and debate. I mean, all the minerals, the recipe, and all that stuff is in my book. The protocol is in my book. There's some of the politics that's changed, but the protocol still stands. There's a few things where, yes, you can use tap water instead of distilled water, but that's not hugely important. I'm going to change right now. But in my next book coming out next year, it's going to have a very different tone to it, a different set of information, and it's going to be worth it. Okay. But hey, I mean, $9 for the ebook or $19.95 for this, and you still have the protocol. Okay. And at least it gives you how to even deal with some of the healing symptoms using the J juice, because I don't give any instruction on how to stop pain with herbs or extracts or other types of antibiotics. But I do give you a little bit of just what you could do with the J juice if you so choose. And then you send me the receipt through my email on my Facebook, on my website, because my website has my email address. Send me the receipt, give me your name on your profile so I know who you are. And then I will add you into the discussion forum, and you can ask limited questions, because let me tell you, people are asking, well, how long is this going to last? And what am I going to experience? And all this. only you know what you're going to experience on the J juice, because you're the one that lived your life. You're the one that brought in predisposition that you know about because you know your family medical history, maybe. And if you don't, you'll find out. Okay. You're the one that's going to know all of the traumas you've ever been through. Okay. I can't tell you what you're going to experience because you lived your life. I never lived your life. I don't know what things you experienced in high school, when you were married or not married, or when you were dealing with all this other stuff. I have no idea what you experienced. So you will be the one to tell me what you're experiencing. And if you want to tell us, great. If you don't, that's fine. But at least you know what it is, because the Jilly Juice deals with past issues, present issues, and future triggers. So we're not going to tell you if the Jilly Juice is going to do this, this, and this for you. You're going to come into this with a specific set of symptoms that you want reversed. And I can't guarantee you that you're going to be addressing those things even in the first year. You could be addressing your specific issue 3 years from now, but there's other things are taking precedence that need to get resolved, and you got to deal with that. And not everybody is ready for that or understands that. So I don't do back and forth on private messenger because people don't want to take the time to read my information. Because let me tell you, once you get the book and you read it, okay, you get some of a platform, you watch my videos because I give you enough information on the videos, and then maybe you get some clarification in the group, in my secret public private Facebook group that everybody has access to when you think about it, because there are trolls in there that do screenshot stuff and put it out there for everybody to see. So if you don't want people knowing your business, then you just chill out, or you send me an email with a question that is not asking me whether or not what you're going to experience, but you want a little clarification on something, and then I may do a video on it, or I may address it in the group with my own post, keeping you anonymous. Or if you have a testimony, which yesterday we had a testimony, we had a few testimonies. Okay. Some people who are in their 90s are doing the J juice. Some people are in their 70s are doing the J juice. Some people are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, been diagnosed, and they're doing the J juice. We have such a cross section of people doing the J juice that, of course, your situation is going to get addressed. But how it gets addressed and what the outcome is going to be based upon you and your understanding and your commitment to watch my information and to implement it. Because let me tell you, nobody can do it for you. You can only do it for yourself. Okay. So, I mean, the possibility to reverse the aging process is there, and then all points in between, from regrowing limbs and organs and regenerating cells, is all a possibility, but it's going to be painful. And the reason why we haven't triggered the regrowing of organs that we know about, the regrowing of the limbs, and the reversing the aging process is because we are dealing with pain mitigation protocols that are so normalized across the board, and there is money being put into more of these pain mitigation protocols. That's why we haven't triggered all of the things that I have been potentially claimed as a possibility. So if you want to be a pioneer into this new world of reversing all of this stuff or indefinite life, you got to deal with pain. You can't escape the pain. You can't escape the accountability. There are no shortcuts in life, literally. But once you get through the fire, then there's peace on the other side, and you've earned it. Some of you want your peace, so you're drugged out. You haven't earned your life, so eventually the devil takes his due. You earn your life or you earn your death. Okay, so the outcome is the intention, even if it's not really your intention, but the outcome is. Where you are in life, in your body, mind, and spirit, is exactly your intention, your belief system, your practices, your choices. So I can only give you another opportunity, another option to work from. And it's not really that difficult, because you've been sick your whole freaking life. You've had to manage all of your symptoms your whole freaking life. But now if you're going to be in pain, at least it's going to work for you instead of working against you. Right now, those of you that are in pain, not on the J juice, going through your life, systematically, that pain that you're experiencing, that you're taking all these drugs for, is not working for you. But what would happen if the pain actually worked for you? That's what I'm introducing. Is the pain that you're experiencing on the J juice is actually working for you, not against you. And so that is your choice. Okay? So, we have lung cancer reversed, we have anal cancer reversed, we have people's, some of their teeth holes, whatever, are being filled in because of cell regeneration. I mean, you name it. We have so many different testimonies. And so it's just a matter of you just doing it and understanding it and not being afraid. And yeah, if you need to go do, if you need to go see your doctor for a reason, go see your doctor. If you need to get that operation, if you need to do all this stuff, do what you got to do. And then do J-juice. If you get into an accident, go get triage, go get stabilized in the ER, come home and do J-juice. If you're on a prescription drug, if you have a pacemaker, if you have implants, whatever they are, do the J-juice, and then you make a choice how you want to deal with those implants at the point that that's appropriate with you and your doctor. But no matter what, if you're under a doctor's care, let your doctor know you're doing this. No matter what. Because if you don't understand the protocol and you're experiencing healing symptoms, you're going to be totally afraid. You're going to go to the doctor will be like, what the hell's going on? I thought these medications were keeping your symptoms under control. And they put you on another drug that's going to cause more issues. So your doctor has to know what you're doing. And inevitably, if you already have hypertension, high blood pressure, he's going to tell you, well, lay off the salt, lay off of this, lay off of that. And then there you go. That is your path. That will be your path. So the choice is all yours. All I have is information. The journey is something that's personal to you because you only know what you've lived through in your life, and we can only be there to kind of be a support, but we can't tell you anything. But we can say, oh yeah, you know, when you make the juice and it does this, it's okay. That's not bad. Scoop off the top, mix and stir. You can leave it out for this long, leave it out for this long. I mean, yeah, the diet is this, why it's like this because of this. You know, if you do go off the diet, it's not gonna be totally like, you know, easy for you to get to where you want to be if you keep undermining this. I mean, that's kind of what our group is about, is a place where you can kind of just vent about your situation, but not bitch about it as if you didn't know it was gonna happen. But you can say, hey, I know there's nobody in my life that understands what I'm doing. They think I'm crazy. And so this is the only place where I can go in and vent and just get some kind of support. And that's what my group is for. Okay. And there's a lot of information in there where you can do a search and look for people's responses about whatever situation. We're not going to have every situation be covered in there because there's just too many symptoms and too many diseases out there. But if you have 11 different systems, all of those are going to be addressed in some way. I mean, all disease is basically a conglomeration of weaknesses in your 11 different systems. Cancer is just weaknesses in parts of your body that these viruses found ways to then try to recycle you back to Earth. And they call them, you know, this cancer or that cancer. But all it is just, you know, it's a weakness in the body that a virus exploited. Okay? So, you know, you don't need to have your specific situation being addressed, because I'm telling you, in the next couple years, there's gonna be more exotic diseases because of stem cells. When you're putting in stem cells in your body, there's gonna be a whole nother set of symptoms that there has to be a cure for. And so, you know, all I'm doing is just kind of giving you a heads up what to expect in the future. And you ultimately have the power to reverse your situation. And that's all the J-Juice is there for. And the FBI knows what I'm doing. The OAG knows what I'm doing. I don't hide this. I am so public. It's insane. You know, I am not giving anybody advice on how to mitigate pain. Go see a doctor if you want to mitigate pain. But the whole J-Juice is nutrition, not poisonous, bringing up pain, which is the healing that you keep trying to avoid. And will you deal with it or will you not? That is the question, and that is the answer you have to give to yourself. Have a good day, guys. Bye.